They say every mansion has secrets. But billionaire Obi Okafor's new estate didn't just have secrets, it had ghosts. And these ghosts? They wanted to play. The first night, he heard the children laughing. The seventh night, he would be the one screaming. But let me take you back to the beginning, to the moment when Nigeria's youngest tech billionaire made the worst purchase of his life. And I'm not talking about money. I'm talking about his soul. Billionaire Obi Okafor didn't believe in ghosts. He believed in bandwidth, algorithms, and profit margins. At 32, he'd built Techverse from a two-room apartment in Yaba to a company worth $800 million. He disrupted banking, displaced competitors, and destroyed anyone foolish enough to stand in his way. Empathy was expensive. Obi couldn't afford it. "This house is a steal," his realtor, Agnes, said as they drove through the rusted gates of the colonial estate. 7 acres in the heart of Ikoyi. The owner is practically giving it away. Obi stared at the crumbling mansion. 3 stories of decay. Broken windows like missing teeth. Vines choking the walls like green fingers. Beautiful in a gothic sort of way. Perfect for his image, the boy from Ajagunal who conquered Lagos. Why so cheap? Obi asked, his sharp mind already calculating renovation costs against property value. Agnes hesitated. "The locals, they have stories. I don't pay for stories. I pay for square footage. They say it's cursed. That children died here. That they still. Do I look like someone who fears bedtime stories?" Obi's voice was ice. "I'll take it. Cash. Today." Please take a second to subscribe to the channel. Tell us where you're watching from in the comment section to get a shout out from us in our next video. Agnes's hand trembled as she handed him the contract. "Mr. Okafor, please. At least talk to the villagers. They've been protesting the sale for weeks. They say. Obi signed with a flourish. "Let me tell you what I say. I say this land is now mine. I say those villagers need to find something productive to do. I say I'll have my lawyers deal with anyone who trespasses." He didn't see Agnes cross herself as he walked away. He didn't see the small handprints appearing in the dust on the windows. He didn't see the shadows moving where no shadow should be. But he would. Oh, he would. Obi moved in immediately. Not because the house was ready, it wasn't. But because a photo of him, roughing it, in his new estate would trend on social media. His followers loved watching billionaires play poor. He set up a sleeping bag in what used to be the master bedroom. Exposed beams. Peeling wallpaper. A chandelier hanging by a thread. His assistant had begged him to stay at his penthouse, at least until the renovations began. "I didn't become rich by being comfortable," Obi had said. What he meant was, I didn't become rich by being human. At 11:47 p.m., he heard the laughter. Children's laughter. High-pitched. Delighted. The sound of kids playing a game. Obi sat up. The mansion was empty. He'd made sure of it, installed security cameras, hired guards for the perimeter. No one could get in. The laughter continued. Closer now. Right outside his door. He grabbed his phone, turned on the flashlight, and walked into the hallway. "This isn't funny," he called out. "I don't know which security guard let their kids in here, but they're fired. You hear me? Fired." The laughter stopped. Silence pressed against his eardrums like water. Then, from the darkness at the end of the hall, "Find us." 2 voices. 1 boy. 1 girl. Speaking in unison. Obi's hand shook. Just for a second. Then he steadied it. "I'm calling the police." "Find us," the voices sang. "Find us before sunrise, or we'll find you." The temperature dropped 20 degrees in 2 seconds. Obi's breath became visible. His phone flickered. The flashlight died. In the darkness, he heard footsteps. Small footsteps. Running. The patter of bare feet on wooden floors. They circled him, faster and faster, the footsteps mixing with giggles and whispers. 1, 2, 3. Obi can't catch me. 4, 5, 6. Obi's full of tricks. 7, 8, 9. Obi's running out of time. The lights burst back on. The hallway was empty. Obi stood alone, his heart hammering against his ribs like a prisoner trying to escape. His hands were trembling. His carefully constructed armor of confidence had cracks in it. He returned to his room and didn't sleep. But the children did. He could hear them snoring softly in the walls. The next morning, Obi hired a team. Not contractors, investigators. 3 men who specialized in unusual phenomena. He paid them triple their rate for discretion. "You're wasting your money," said Kunnel, the lead investigator, a grizzled man with tribal marks and tired eyes. "This house has a history. You should sell it." "I don't sell," Obi snapped. "I conquer. Tell me about the history."
Kunnel sighed.
In 1924, a British colonial officer named Jameson Whitmore built this house. He was cruel, even by colonial standards. The locals say he used slave labor, men, women, children. When the locals protested, demanding better treatment, Whitmore made an example. What kind of example? He took 2 children from the village. Twins. A boy named Chukwu and a girl named Adiz. He accused their father of theft, a lie. As punishment, he buried the children alive in the foundation of this house, right beneath where we're standing. The air felt heavier. The father went mad with grief, Kunnel continued. He cursed this land, said his children would never rest, would never forgive, that anyone who lived here would pay for Whitmore's sins. 3 months later, Whitmore disappeared. They found his body in the well, drowned. But here's the strange part. The well was only 3 feet deep. Obi's jaw tightened. "That's just a story." "Is it?" Kunnel pulled out a folder. 15 families have owned this house since 1924. 15 families. Not one lasted more than 6 months. They all reported the same things. Children's laughter, footsteps, objects moving. And every single owner? They all saw the same thing on their 7th night. What? The children. Face to face. And after that night, they couldn't leave fast enough. Mr. Okafor, whatever you think you know about reality, this house will change your mind. Obi wanted to laugh, but he couldn't, because last night he'd heard them. He'd felt them. "Fine," Obi said. "If they're in the foundation, I'll dig them up. I'll give them a proper burial. Problem solved." "You can't." "Why not?" "Because no one knows exactly where they are. This house has 50 rooms. The foundation is massive. You have to tear down the entire structure." And even then, Kunnel paused. "Mr. Okafor, some curses can't be broken with money. Everything has a price. Not souls. Not children's souls." That night, night 2, Obi didn't run. He sat in the master bedroom with every light blazing, his phone recording, his eyes fixed on the door. At midnight, the lights went out. At 12:01, he heard the song. Obi, Obi, rich and cold, bought a house but didn't ask what it sold. We've been waiting, buried deep. Now, it's your turn to weep. The door opened by itself. 2 children stood in the doorway. The boy was maybe 7 years old. The girl, his twin, looked identical. They wore burial clothes, white linen stained with red clay. Their eyes were hollow. Not empty, worse. Filled with something ancient and angry and absolutely aware. "You bought our grave," Chukwu said. "Without permission," Adiz added. Obi's mouth went dry. I didn't know. I'll fix this. I'll find where you're buried. We'll show you," the twins said together. "But you must play first." "Play. Hide and seek. You have until dawn. 6 hours. Find us, and we'll show you where we're buried. Fail and what?" The children smiled. Their teeth were too sharp. "You stay with us. Forever." They vanished like smoke. Obi heard their laughter echoing through 50 rooms. The game had begun. Obi ran through the mansion like a man possessed, which, in a way, he was becoming. Every room was a nightmare. The library, where books flew off shelves and pages whispered his sins. You fired Sarah when she asked for maternity leave. You destroyed Tun's startup because he said no to your buyout. You stepped on everyone to reach the top. The kitchen, where knives embedded themselves in the walls, forming words. Cruel. Heartless.
Guilty.
The ballroom, where invisible dancers twirled to music only the dead could hear, and in the mirrors, Obi saw himself, older, grayer, more alone than he'd ever imagined. He found toys. A wooden horse in the attic, still rocking. A doll with button eyes in the basement, whispering, "Find us." Marbles that rolled uphill. A teddy bear that left wet footprints. In the servants' quarters, he found something worse. Photographs. Black and white images from 1924. Whitmore standing proudly in front of his new mansion. And there in the background, two small figures. Chukwu and Adiz, holding hands, staring at the camera with the empty eyes of children who knew what was coming. Obi's phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. 3 hours left, Obi. We're getting closer. The walls began to breathe. In and out. In and out. The house was alive. Or maybe it was hungry. In the conservatory, Obi found scratches on the floor. Small fingernails had carved words into the wood. Help US. Let US out.
Mama. Papa. Please.
His heart broke in a way it hadn't broken in years. Maybe ever. These weren't monsters. They were children. Terrified children who'd been buried alive, who'd suffocated in darkness, who'd been forgotten by everyone except the house that became their tomb. "I'm sorry," Obi whispered. "I'm so sorry." The temperature warmed slightly. As if the house was listening, Obi thought about his own childhood. Growing up in Ajagunal, where hunger was more reliable than electricity. His mother working 3 jobs. His father's absence. The way people looked at him, like he was already a failure at age 10. He'd clawed his way out. Stepped on others because he was terrified of falling back down. Built walls around his heart because vulnerability was a luxury poor boys couldn't afford. When had he become the villain? When had he become Whitmore? "I'll find you," Obi said to the darkness. "Not because I'm afraid, but because you deserve peace." Chukwu's voice softer now, the place where water meets stone. Adiz's voice almost kind, where the master washed his hands of guilt. The well. Obi ran outside, his breath ragged, his expensive clothes soaked with sweat. The well sat in the garden, covered with rotting wood. He tore off the planks with his bare hands, splinters digging into his palms. He looked down, 3 feet deep, just like Connell said. But the walls were wrong. Too thick, as if something had been sealed inside them. "We're in the walls," the twins whispered from everywhere and nowhere. He put us in the walls so we'd always be close to water. So our screams would be drowned out. Obi grabbed a pickaxe from the garden shed and swung.
Once. Twice.
The wall cracked. Behind it, a hollow space. And inside, 2 small skeletons curled together, arms wrapped around each other. Obi fell to his knees. Dawn was breaking. The children materialized beside him. Less terrifying now. Just tired. Just small. "You found us," Chukwu said. "Now keep your promise," Adiz added. "Give us a proper burial.
Tell people what happened.
Make sure they remember." "I will," Obi said. Tears streamed down his face. When was the last time he'd cried? "I swear on everything I have. I'll build a memorial. I'll tell your story. I'll make sure the world knows your names." "Why?" the twins asked. "Why do you care now?" Obi looked at the skeletons. At the tiny bones that had once been living, laughing children. "Because I forgot what it means to be human. I forgot that every person I destroyed had a story, had family, had dreams. I became the monster." "What about your mansion?" Chukwu asked.
"Keep it.
Burn it. I don't care.
It was never mine."
"It's yours. It always was." The children looked at each other. Some silent conversation passed between them. "Our father cursed this land," Adiz said. "But curses can be broken," Chukwu continued. "If the payment is right," they said together. "What payment?" Obi asked. "You said you'd do anything. Prove it." "Whitmore took everything from our family," Chukwu explained. "Our father's land. Our mother's joy. Our lives." "You want revenge," Obi said. I understand. No, Adiz shook her head. Revenge keeps us here. We want justice. What's the difference? Revenge hurts. Justice heals. The twins held out their small, ghostly hands. Take us to our village. Find our descendants. Give them back what was stolen. Your father's land? Everything. The land. The truth. The apology. That's the price of your freedom and ours. Obi understood. This wouldn't be simple. Whitmore's descendants might still own the original land. There would be legal battles, years of litigation, millions in compensation. It would cost him everything he'd built. I'll do it, Obi said without hesitation. All of it. You'll lose your company, Chukwu warned. Your reputation. People will call you crazy. Good. I earned that reputation honestly. For the first time in 98 years, the twins smiled. Really smiled. There's one more thing, Adiz said. The curse didn't just trap us. It trapped him. Him. Thunder rumbled inside the well. The water bubbled. And rising from the depths, water streaming from his colonial uniform, was Jameson Whitmore. His ghost was rage incarnate. Eyes like hot coals. Mouth twisted in permanent fury. You dare? Whitmore's voice was gravel and broken glass. This is MY house. My land. These are MY. We were never yours, the twins said. Their voices harmonized, powerful, no longer afraid. And neither is he. Light burst from their small bodies. Clean light. Pure light. The kind that erases darkness. Whitmore screamed as the light consumed him, burning away 98 years of rage and cruelty. His ghost didn't disappear, it transformed. Shrank. Became small and pathetic and utterly powerless. The twins looked at Obi one last time. Thank you for seeing us. Not as ghosts. As children. Thank you for seeing me, Obi replied. Not as a billionaire. As a person who forgot how to be one. They faded as the sun rose, their laughter no longer haunting. Just the sound of children, finally free to play. The lawyers said Obi was insane. The media said he'd had a breakdown. His board of directors voted him out of his own company. But Obi didn't care. He stood in a village outside Lagos, surrounded by the descendants of Chukwu and Adiz's family. 7 acres of land had been returned to them, land worth hundreds of millions. He'd liquidated his assets, sold his properties, given almost everything away. An old woman, the twins' great-great-great-niece, touched his face. They came to me in a dream, she said. Chukwu and Adiz. They said to forgive you. They said you set them free. They set me free, Obi corrected. That night, in a modest apartment in Yaba, the same neighborhood where he'd started Techverse, Obi heard children's laughter. But this time, it didn't terrify him. He looked out the window. In the street below, kids played football under streetlights, their joy uncontained and absolutely alive. Obi smiled. For the first time in years, he felt light. Like the weight of a mansion had been lifted from his shoulders. Like a curse had been broken. Like a man who'd been buried alive in his own ambition had finally learned to breathe. They say every mansion has secrets. But Obi Okafor's mansion taught him something more important. Some prices are worth paying. Some debts must be settled. And sometimes, the ghosts we need to face aren't in crumbling estates. They're in our mirrors, staring back, waiting for us to finally do the right thing. So bestie's wealth without compassion builds a mansion of ghosts. True freedom comes not from what you own, but from the wrongs you make right, even when it costs you everything.